Good evening and welcome to another episode of Close Up. This week on the show we will discuss technical and vocational education and training in Fiji, also known as TVAT. Australia Pacific Training Coalition, or APTC, specializes in TVAT education, and in studio with me I have Mr. Chavesa Salandoka, the Country Director for Fiji and Tuvalu APTC. Mr. Chavesa, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Anissa Mbulavanak. It's always nice to be back in this studio.
Mr. Chavesa, firstly, what is TVAT and how relevant is it in today's job market?
And even before we jump into that, I'd just like to acknowledge the 120,000 people who have lost their jobs during this time, and I hope that they're tuning in so they can have a bit of a listen on what the TVAT space can contribute to their livelihood during this time. So TVAT, like you've said, is technical vocational education and training. So it's really workforce training and trying to provide the core skills of the technical skills as well as the workability skills for people to be able to navigate into a particular workforce. In terms of relevance, I probably would just quickly remind people of the 2018 employment survey that was done by the Fiji Bureau of Statistics. And obviously that landscape has changed quite a lot because of the COVID-19 crisis. But in that survey, that out of the 170,000 people who were employed in Fiji, almost 80% of those people were from within the TVAT sector. Now that is the relevance of the TVAT in our own development here in Fiji. That when people are thinking about career choices, when people are thinking about a career pathway, it is really important for people to think about what is available out there. And for us here in Fiji, the numbers are telling us before COVID-19 that majority of employment opportunities sits within the TVAT space.
Mr. Chavesa, what does TVAT look like to someone who is considering his or her career path?
I think even before we look at the person and try to influence that mindset, I think we need to think about where does that person live and how enabling is that environment for that person to actually realize that yes, this is a clear pathway for me, that I can get something out of a TVAT qualification. So a lot of work also needs to be done around trying to work with our parents, with our key decision makers to actually recognize the value of TVAT and what it can bring in terms of employment opportunities. Obviously here in Fiji we have some really wonderful institutions who are offering really good standardized qualifications in TVAT. I mean, obviously, we have the Fiji National University who has a history of delivering TVAT programs. We've got APTC, obviously, that runs Australian qualifications, and a whole lot of other institutions like Pacific TAFE at the University of the South Pacific. So it's really important, I think, for people to, as they navigate their way out of high school, to start thinking about where I want to be in the next 5 to 10 years. But also that thinking needs to be informed by the fact that where does that employment opportunity lie? So thinking about what is the labor market assessment telling us? What are the industries telling us in terms of job opportunities? Because then that will help the person think about, okay, I probably will not go and do my Bachelor of Commerce because there are only so many people that can be employed in that space. This is probably the pathway for me, which is the TVAT qualification.
All right. Mr. Salandoka, for those who will be tuning in, who are tuning in right now and might want to upgrade their skills, who are also looking for employment, who are looking for things to do, give us some background about APTC and some of the courses that you provide.
Okay. APTC has been around for at least 10 years now. I mean, it is Australia's largest investment in the region. It was really in response to our own forum leaders' requests and recognition of the fact that one way to strengthen development in the Pacific is to strengthen our TVAT system. So that was basically how APTC came about. So all of the trainings that we conduct here in Fiji and in our other campus countries are all Australian qualifications that focuses on a whole range of things, from trade to hospitality, cookery, and even individual support, as well as some of our other service trainings like leadership and management. We also have always want to make sure that the training that we are conducting is aligned to what's existing in the country. We want to make sure that it complements what's already available, and part of that is the commitment to add value to what's already in country. So a national qualification or a local qualification is not only recognized here in Fiji, but it's also recognized elsewhere, because then it helps our people to access international employment opportunities.
And so how does APTC fit into the TVAT space in Fiji?
I'd like to think that we do fit into the TVAT space here in Fiji. We are really fortunate that we work very closely with our industries. I know that later on you'll be talking to the Construction Industry Council, the Fiji National University. We've had partnership agreements both with FNU and CIC in the development of specific national qualifications. We've worked very closely with the University of the South Pacific on our hospitality and cookery program. So we try to position ourselves within the TVAT sector in a way that we are not influencing the way we are working together, but also adding value to what's in existence, particularly in terms of qualifications, the facilities, and the capability development of people who are running some of those programs.
And to those who might be tuning in, what would your advice be to those who are looking for a tertiary education, or maybe which TVAT course to take up?
I'm sure that when you talk to our friends from the Construction Industry Council after this, I think one of the things that has come out quite strongly in this assessment that we've done so far, that there are key job opportunities within the construction sector as well as in our hospitality and the service industry. I think one of the things that has happened because of COVID-19 crisis is that it has changed the employment landscape. So people, I think, now have the opportunity to look at other things, you know, the informal sector, starting your own business, and just finding other ways to supplement, you know, the income that you used to get before COVID-19.
Well, Mr. Saldoka, unfortunately time has caught up with us, but we thank you very much for joining us this evening.
Thank you, Naka.
Don't go away, we'll have more discussions from the Construction Industry Council and also FNU after this break.